Hello, 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 everybody. Give me a big thumbs up in the chat if you can hear me loud and clear. Give me a big thumbs up in the chat if you can hear me loud and clear. Let me see those thumbs up. How is everyone doing? So I see a bunch of people asking a whole bunch of questions. Hey, congrats to everybody who has passed the exam. Okay. Victor, love it. Passed his exam, said, hello, Stu. Thanks for the one-on-one pass the Georgia test on 8:30. That was a tough test, too. So congrats, Victor. Loved working with you one-on-one. Hey, if anyone else wants a private tutoring session, please feel free to head on over to prepagent.com. Head on up to the More button right up there. And what you'll do is this in the upper right-hand corner, if you can't see it on my screen, you'll go to More, hit that, then the private tutoring, okay? Private tutoring, and you'll be able to schedule a session with myself and Cynthia. So you could choose either one of us, okay? But what I will tell you is this. I know that there's a lot of people who do want to schedule a session. You don't have to message me at all unless you have a very specific question. If it's anything in general, basically what I will tell you is this: everything should be answered in the FAQ, and you can just go ahead and schedule a session right there. So a couple people asked in the chat, and I always love taking a couple questions. You know that I always love. Answering any questions that you have. And someone had a question. Nicole said, how long is private tutoring session, and is it one time? Yes. So you pay per session, okay? And it is 1 hour session via Zoom. Okay, so, and those are all, again, answered on the FAQ as well. So those are, again, those typical questions we get 1,000 of. And we make it easier because you're not the only one with that question. We want to make sure that we answer it. So the FAQ is a good place to go to. Now, someone else said, hey, I'm studying for my test. I'm taking it in a month. Stu, what are some of your best recommendations? Hey, guess what? Vary up your test taking, your studying. There's a lot of, we all have, listen, you have me, Joe, and Cynthia. We all have a slightly different way of studying. See, me, I'm not as super focused on things, so I typically do not err on the side of separating it and being as detail oriented as someone like Cynthia is. So what I usually tell my students to do is excuse me. Pardon me. Just had a little cough there, a little tickle. So let's get back to the program show. So what I was talking about is this. I was just saying that what I usually like to tell my students to do is this. I like to say, hey, look at the weekly schedule, okay? Look at the weekly schedule in regards to where the webinars are. And like today, we're doing contracts, right? So whether you can watch it live, which I hope that everyone who can watch it live is watching live. Hey, if you are live with me, remember, hit the like button. That helps us. Also, if you're watching this on replay or anything like that, please do make sure you hit that like button. That helps us out. So please make sure that you have that in there and you're hitting that like button, because that tells YouTube that you like me. Okay, so I ask for that, and please also, even in videos that we haven't asked for that in, please remember to do that for Joe and Cynthia as well. So if you watch on replay on any of our webinars, I do ask that you do that for us, because we found out that even though these are not listed anywhere else, these are not public because these are only for Prep Agent Premium members. It does help YouTube know, hey, look, these things are things that people really love. So back to studying tips. I was just telling you a little bit about what I like to tell my students to do. Go into the webinars, okay? And let's say today we're doing contracts. Hey, now, after this, do 20 questions on contracts. Doesn't have to be right after this, okay? But that would give you a nice solid hour and a half, okay, to 2 hours, all right? So that would be the situation there. Be a nice hour and a half to 2 hours worth of work. And also, you don't have to figure out what am I going to be studying today. So that's how I like to study, and also like to make sure that you're doing, okay, if you're doing the webinars the way that I'm telling you to do them, and you're doing a couple questions afterwards. Also, do your vocab like Joe says. Joe's a big vocab person. So definitely 1,000% do your vocab as well. So I think that's a great combination. And again, that's the way that I like to study because I'm not super detail oriented. I just don't think I ever will be. And I need just a rough draft of where I need to go, just a little bit of guidance. And I think that adds a little bit of structure to me without feeling overwhelmed with the structure of things. That's just, again, the way I would like to study as a student. If you want a much more structured thing, I think that if you look at Cynthia, her suitcase method, that's a great, fantastic, like if you're like, that's a little too willy-nilly, fly by the seat of my pants kind of thing, look at Cynthia's suitcase method because that might appeal to you a little bit more. Also, check out Joe's methods. Listen to some of his webinars. I think that you'll see that there's definitely between the three of us, there's something that works for you. And here's the thing: if you don't have something that appeals for me, you will have it in some of the other instructors. So someone said, "Let's get started." Yeah, absolutely. I always save. Listen, what I always do on my webinars, I always save those first 5 minutes for that housekeeping stuff and stuff like that, and answering those questions. So if you ever want a tip about my webinars, skip the first 5 minutes if you don't want to hear any of those squishy questions. Okay, that's what I always tell students. So let's get started. Let's jump into this. And what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to be doing questions today. So what I want you to do is we'll read the question, and then what I will tell you is this. I want you to tell me what you think the answer is, okay? And then we'll talk about it, okay? So let's take a look at the first question that we have. So it reads like this, and I'm just making sure it shows up properly on the screen. A broker receives a full price offer on a house he has listed in accordance with the terms of the listing. Before he can present the offer, another broker brings in an offer with slightly better terms, but for $500 less. The listing broker should, A, wait until the seller makes a decision on the first offer before presenting the second. B, tell the other broker that the property has been sold. It's done. C, refuse to accept the second offer. Or D, present both offers at the same time. So a lot of you are saying D as in donut, okay? And what I want to tell you is this. Absolutely 1,001,000,000% it is D, okay? They should present both offers at the same time. Now, what happens is this, and I'm going to tell you my interpretation of what usually would be your best answer in this, and I just scrolled it up a little bit so that you can see the explanation as well in case you want to pause it, okay? So what I'm going to tell you is this. Whenever you're presenting offers, whenever there's a question that comes up that has to do with the timing of when you're going to present them, you present them as soon as possible, okay? So whatever the best answer is, that is as soon as possible. That should be your answer. And also another thing that I will tell you is this, in regards to the questions, always keep in mind they're asking you for your best answer. So there's one answer that might not be entirely wrong, but it might not be the most complete and the most accurate answer. So always remember, they're looking for an answer that is the best out of the ones that they're giving you. So in this case, definitely clear winner is D as in donut, which is present both offers at the same time. Now, options are always something that comes up on the test, so let's jump right into that question. An option requires the optionee to complete the purchase. B, results in a commission to the broker if the optionee does not exercise the option. C, keeps an offer open for a specified period of time. Or D, as in donut, gives the buyer a lien on the property. So we're going to talk about options because I think that a lot of you get questions on options on the test. So for those of us who have taken the test before, give me a thumbs up. Give me a big thumbs up if you've gotten at least one option question, because I think that this is a popular topic and I do want to go into it. And a lot of you are saying C as in cake. Oh, Lily of the Valley. Listen, I'll totally take C as in cake. Let's do this. It's C as in cake. So let's talk about what an option is. So the first thing that an option is it's a unilateral contract. Okay? So tell me this. Let me ask you, the ones who are here with me live. What is the difference between a unilateral and a bilateral contract? What is the difference between a unilateral and a bilateral contract? And I see a ton of thumbs up in the chat, so I know that options are a thing that's going to be on your test. So that's why we're going to dive into it. We're going to do the whole stew. Like, let's take a nice deep dive. So, unilateral and bilateral. What is the difference between them? So, first thing that we have is a lot of you. So here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to clear up some of the misconceptions. Now, those of you who are live with me, you might not have this misconception, okay? Some of you who are watching on recording might not have this misconception either. But if this is you, then guess what? I'm here to help you. So one of the misconceptions, something that I always get when students tell me, when I ask them what's the difference between unilateral and bilateral, someone says bilateral is between two parties and unilateral is one party. Well, my good friends, nay, that is not the difference. Because what you have to understand is, what do you need for a valid binding contract? Well, you need offer and acceptance. There has to be an agreement on the terms. There has to be what we refer to as a meeting of the minds, right? It's one of our essential elements of a contract. So what happens is the difference between unilateral and bilateral, and a lot of you are saying it in the chat, which is absolutely fantastic. So give yourselves a gold star if you are where I'm about to be, or if you're even close to that. What it is this. Unilateral is binding to one party. Bilateral is binding to two parties. So watch this. I sell you my guitar for $300. That contract is bilateral. I'm giving you possession of the guitar, okay? You're giving me $300, right? That is bilateral. Promise is exchanged for a promise. Boom. A unilateral is binding to one party. Only one party has to act. So the party that has to act is the option or, the one who is giving the option. And here's what I always say. How do you identify a unilateral or an option contract versus a regular contract? Usually, an option contract has a choice. You can do A or you can do B. So in real estate, that would be typically, you can buy my home for X amount of money by this date, or you could not. Is up to you. The option E. You're the one who has the choice to, what they refer to as exercise the option. Exercise the option. Okay? So if the option E exercises their option and says, yes, I would like to buy your home for $300,000. Then what happens is it turns into a bilateral agreement. Okay? Then you have a bilateral contract there. So Keisha, and I hope that I pronounced the name correctly, says, hey, Stuart wants to stop by and say, I passed my Florida test first try. Boom! Would not have been able to do it without prep agent. That's what I love to hear. Congrats. Get on to being a fantastic, amazing agent. Maybe you're going to help me find my next home in Florida. I want to move to Florida or the South so bad. I am not in the South. Winter is coming in the northeast of the country, and that's usually whenever I see any of my Florida real estate agents that I just help get their license. I always say, hey, I'm coming. I'm coming down. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. So watch out for me. So let's look at the next question, shall we? Okay. So this question reads: a written agreement in which an owner allows an individual to use the property in exchange for rent, and also gives that individual the right to buy the property for a specified period of time, okay, for a specified price, within a specified period. This contract most likely would be A, a lease option, B, a listing contract, C, an estate for years, or D, an estate at sufferance. An estate at sufferance. Yeah, I have my places in Florida that I would go to. I just came back from a vacation in Miami, so that was like for at least a good weekend, me and Mrs. Stu were looking at homes in Miami. A lot of you let's take a look and see. So someone asked, are listings part of contracts? Yeah, I mean, so what I'm going to tell you is this little sidebar, okay? And this is one of the reasons why I kind of like a more willy nilly type of study plan, because you could study things such as contracts and listings be in them, and then they could also be in practices and disclosures. And like, there's a lot of places where, or it could be in, the practice of real estate. A lot of things, kind of what I refer to as cross pollinate. So yeah, I always say so. A listing is an employment contract, so I would most likely put it in contract. Right? Like if I was saying where should that go, where should a question on listings go, I would say contracts. But could I see that in practice of real estate? Absolutely. So it really depends on what the question is asking. So that's why, again, that's why I'm a proponent of a willy-nilly kind of strategy, because it is sometimes not easy to really separate everything out. Again, sometimes, and I'm making a blanket statement. Again, there is no perfect way to do this. So, Focus Study Vibes said, thanks, Stu. And that's why I hope you don't mind, and keep that in mind too when you watch my webinars. Listen, I have ADD. So what I do is I tell people this every once in a while. I'm like, I am a teacher with ADD. You're going to get laughs. You're going to get giggles. You're going to get jokes. You're going to get things in between. You're going to get me sidebarred. But what I try to do is I try to answer questions I think everyone at least has at least once. And I try to also let you know that this is interactive. So this is one of the benefits if you are joining me live. So please, what I want you to do is hit that like button for me, for the whole team over here, for what we do. And let's talk about what this is. This is A as an apple crumbly pie. So some people, now I will tell you this, you smarty pants live people with me right now, you didn't fall for any of the trickery in this, okay? Some people say that this is an estate for years because hey, this is something that you see that is for a specified period, a specified price, something like that might lead you to that. What happens is this. Keep in mind, they're talking about a lease with an option. The option is that right to buy the property for a specified price for a specified period. Remember, I said to you even before, I was like, hey, a option is this, okay? An option contract is a contract that keeps something open for a specified period of time that's binding to the optionor. Okay, so and whenever I bring up the ADHD, I always get a couple of people that ask me questions. Has anyone with ADHD taken their test in a different room? So here's the thing. What I will tell you is this little sidebar. Most testing centers, if you have documented any kind of documented learning disability, they will give you some sort of accommodations, and sometimes those are really good, and I always say take advantage of those. You have every right to at least put yourself on an equal playing field. I did that for a lot of my education career. When I was in college, I got extra notes. And also too, what I'm going to tell you, just so that you know, typically the personality type of people that go into real estate, typically they're going into real estate because they're people. Okay, I don't know if you realize that about me, but I'm a people. I got into real estate because I loved it, and I wasn't the scholar. So you can all do this. There's no barriers that any of you could not overcome. So really, word of advice to everybody out there: you could do this. What I would say is this: take the advantages that you can. So contact your testing your testing body, whether that be PSI, Pearson VUE, or your state. And what I will tell you is this: see what works for you. And it might be trial and error. It might be one of those things that you're like, no. That's going to be the like, it won't be beneficial to you, but you don't know until you until you see that. So that is the situation there. So that being said, okay, let us look at the next question. So let's look at this one. The following are required to be in writing except. Okay. The following are required to be in writing, except sale of a condominium, sale of an RV, sale of a vacant lot, okay, or sale of a personal residence. What do you think? So, some of you are saying sale of a recreational vehicle. That seems to be the big one here. So, condominium, vacant lot, personal residence, all real estate. So, those are all going to be required to be in writing, to be enforceable based on the statute of frauds, except an RV, okay? Except an RV, which is going to be personal property. Now, let me just kind of say a couple things, because we're going to talk about this a little bit, and we're going to also talk about a couple of questions that came up. Some people are saying, hey, you can take the test at home. I don't recommend that. That is not for every state, okay? You have to contact your local, your governing, your state administering body, okay? The situation is this. It is for some people. It is not for others, okay? There are technical difficulties sometimes with it. I usually 9 out of 10 times say I don't recommend it. However, there are people who do find it to be much more beneficial, even with the downsides to it. But what I would tell you is this. You could go into the Facebook group and see the pluses and minuses about it. So if you go into our Prep Agent Facebook group, I would suggest that you search that group, okay? So that is the situation there. As far as this question, okay, as far as this question is concerned, is going to be this, okay? The statute of frauds requires all real estate contracts to be in writing, okay, in writing to be enforceable, okay? So what do I mean by it requires that it be in writing to be enforceable? Keep in mind, at-home testing is not for every state. So if you said, oh, wow, I didn't know that's an option, might not be an option for you. California, not an option for you. So that is our largest state. Don't think about that, okay? So here is the situation, okay? With this, what do I mean, okay? What do I mean when I said, hey, it has to be in writing to be enforceable? And we're talking about this question, right? We're talking about this question. What happens is this. Enforceable versus unenforceable, okay? Enforceable versus unenforceable means that you could take someone to court, okay? You could take someone to court to enforce it. So here's the thing, and I want to explain this to you explicitly so that you understand this. A contract could be valid, okay, meeting all of the requirements of a valid contract, okay? So what are the essential elements of a contract? So why don't you tell me what that is? What are the essential elements of a contract? Why don't you write that down for me right now so that I could see in the chat that you guys have that. You have that in your head, okay? And what I'll do is I'll also write it down here as well. I'll put one of my handy-dandy Post-it notes up and kind of change it up a little bit, give you a little something different, something that I usually do, more akin to my typical webinars. So I hope you can read that. So we need clock, right? Competent parties, okay? Lawful object. And when we say lawful object, we mean the objective of the contract is lawful, okay? Offer and acceptance, or meeting of the minds, okay? And consideration. It could be good or valuable, okay? So all those things are things that we need to have a valid contract, okay? Now, we can have all of those things and have it be a valid contract, right? So let's say I said to you, okay, I want to buy your home, okay? I want to buy your home, and you know what? Let's not put it in writing. Nay. Not about that whole putting it in paper thing, okay? What happens here is this. We can meet all these requirements, okay? All these requirements. But then what happens is, based on the statute of frauds, because it is an oral contract, we would not be able to enforce it in court. So what does that mean? That means that we have a valid contract. That means that if we wanted to go forward with it, we could. They also refer to this as binding amongst parties, meaning amongst yourselves, you could go ahead with this because it's lawful. You have all the things for a valid contract, okay? But what happens is this. You're missing the ability to enforce it. So if one of you backs out and says, nay, nay, I don't want to do this, then what happens is this. The courts would not be able to say that they could enforce it because they would say the contract is not in writing, so we cannot be involved. If you both want to go ahead with it, we can't stop you because it meets all the valid requirements of a contract. But we also can't force either of you to do it. So they're kind of like their hands are tied. So what happens is this. Those are two separate questions. Is it valid and is it enforceable? You can have them separate from one another. They could be a valid contract that is unenforceable. Okay? That is the situation there. Does that make sense? Does everyone, hey, you know what? Here's another time. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you're with me, if you're following along with me, if you liked my explanation of that, if you understand a little better now the difference between unenforceable, enforceable, and the situation there with the statute of frauds. So if we're going back to the question, okay, right here, the sale of an RV does not need to be in writing in order to be enforceable, okay? So you could actually have an oral contract for the sale of an RV, okay? So a verbal contract to sell real estate would be unenforceable. The courts would not be able to, the courts would not be able to get involved with that, okay? And someone said, still a little confusing, but I'll get it. I love the enthusiasm. What I'm going to say to you is this. There's sometimes where I explain something, and it just might not click the first time. It might not click the second time. It might not. Listen, every time I explain it, you might not get it. Hence why I am a huge proponent of go back and watch some of the webinars with Joe and Cynthia, because it's something that I might have explained, might have worked for everyone else, not you. That is not a you problem. That's probably a Stu problem where that just for that one concept or for that thing might not work for you as far as my explanation. So head on over and see some of the other instructors' webinars and see how they're explaining it. That's why I'm a big fan of that. I know that you might have your favorites. I hope that I'm one of your favorites. And if you are here, I'm sure that I am. However, what I'm going to say is definitely head on over and see some of the other instructors, because like I said, something that might not click here might click with another one. So let's keep it moving and grooving, okay? She said, you're awesome, Stu. It's a me problem. Now, like I said, that's why I know that I'm not everyone's cup of tea for everything, but I want to make sure that you understand that I empower you to go and hear from other people, because I think that really the most important thing is that we get you past the test. That's the goal, okay? So I'm not hurt at all if you're like, hey, that just worked better when Joe explained it. I'll be like, that's cool. But always remember that we always have to bring back the hashtag. Hashtag gives Stu a raise. So let's look at this one. An executed contract is a contract that A, requires a novation, B, signed, notarized, and recorded, C, completed and fully performed by both parties, or D, under jurisdiction of the probate court. So what do we see? What do we see? Okay. Let's see. It is going to be, it is going to be C. It is executed if it is completed and fully performed. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you, and I always say this. There's a lot of synonyms that we use in real estate, or what my friend's daughter likes to say is the cinnamons. Okay, there's a lot of cinnamons in real estate where you're going to see one word might be similar to another one, okay? So what happens is some people use the word executed. Some people use the word discharge. I think some people just say completed, done, donezo, kaputskis, okay? All of them same stuff, okay? So now, as opposed to executed, what does executory mean? Because we sometimes see that alongside executed, okay? So some people were getting it confused with B as in brownie batter. Okay. So what happens is this. The reason why it's not signed, notarized, and recorded, because not every contract, listen to what I'm going to tell you. Not every contract needs to be signed. Not every contract needs to be notarized. Not every contract needs to be recorded. It's not an essential element. It's not an essential element. Keep that in mind. Because oral contracts, as long as they're not a real estate sales contract or a lease for more than 1 year, according to the statute of frauds, with clear and compelling evidence, could be taken to court and could be enforced. Okay? So if I said to you, I will sell you my guitar for $300, and you have clear and compelling evidence, even if we don't put it in writing, that we had this agreement, we had this contract, and we met all the legal requirements, the courts could enforce it. Okay? The courts could enforce it. So that's the thing. Again, oral contracts. So here's the thing. Two things are going to be true at the same time when it just comes to contract law. And I want you to understand this. There could be several things true at the same time. Oral contracts can be enforceable, okay, as long as they are not for the two things that I explained that the statute of frauds actually says, hey, you need these to be in writing to be enforceable, which is real estate sales contracts and leases for more than 1 year, okay? Need to be in writing to be enforceable. And also any exclusive agreements. Just so you know, that's like the little thing in there that I also like to sprinkle in. Any exclusive agreements, okay? Anything else, if you have clear and compelling evidence, although difficult, can be enforced, okay? Not saying you're going to be successful. It can be enforced. So, executory, getting back to that. Executory means that still stuff needs to be done. We have not fully performed all of our promises in the contract, okay? All of the promises in the contract have not been fully performed. So, let's keep it moving. Let's keep it grooving. Let's look at the next question. So, this one's a good one. And this is another one that there's a lot of synonyms for this. Definitely 1,000%. So which of the following is created when possession and title do not occur at the same time? Estate at sufferance, subordination clause, interim occupancy agreement, and writ of execution. Okay. So sometimes when you're reading a question, you may not know what it means. However, you might know what all the other things are, okay? You might know what all the other things are, and by a process of elimination, you might be able to get to this. So, harumph. So, some people are knowing exactly what the answer is. I see a lot of smarty pants in the live chat today. So, let me tell you what this is. This is going to be called an interim occupancy agreement, okay? And this is basically a situation. Now, they sometimes call it different things. So when I'm practicing real estate and when I'm authoring something, I refer to this as a use and occupancy. Basically, let me explain the scenario, okay? Someone said C as in cat. Yeah, C as in cat, C as in cookie, C as in Crunchyroll. What happens is this. What they're basically saying, and I'm going to explain it in the simplest terms that I can. You're in contract for something, right? So you're in contract to get title, which is basically a sales contract. And then, basically, you're taking possession, but you don't have title yet. Meaning that basically, like, the house may be vacant, okay? So what happens is this. The house may be vacant. So, like, me and Mrs. Stu, okay? Me and Mrs. Stu, what happened was when we bought our home, the home that we're living in, it was, I will never forget this, it was close to the holidays. Actually, let me rephrase that. It was the holidays, and we were engaged, and we had two choices. We either were going to close early, okay? We were either going to close early to get into the house or try to have a use and occupancy until we could close, okay? So what happened was this. We actually They actually denied our request for a use and occupancy or an interim occupancy agreement. They were like, no, we're going to close when we close. So I ended up sleeping on the couch of my mother-in-law's house for the Christmas that we were engaged. So that was my story with use and occupancy. But yeah, I mean, or a interim occupancy agreement. Either one could be used. And again, they would use the terms interchangeably. But this one was something that I would tell you is this. Okay, you really could have gotten to this without knowing exactly what that is if you know what the other ones are. And I see a lot of people, listen, because you're all asking in the chat about what a subordination clause is. This isn't a financing video, but I'll end with that because a lot of people are asking about that. So I will end with that. Okay. What happens is this. Subordination clause is, so the order in which liens take priority. Right? So the order in which liens take priority. And I'm going to go back to my Post-it notes because I think it's just a little easier to see. Ready? So we're going to put some Post-it notes here. Just bear with me, okay? Because I got to get the Post-it notes ready so that you understand, okay? So what happens is this. Let's say we had our primary purchase mortgage, okay, where you had it for $125,000, right? And that was done on 9/20/20. Right? 9/20/20 it closed. September 2020. Okay. Now, what happens is this. You want to take out, let's say it's 2022, it's January 2022, and you want to take out some equity. You want to take out $10,000 equity loan. Okay. And it's January 2022. Okay. Now, that one should come after as far as the priority. So, like if this home, okay, if this home were foreclosed on, okay, in just a regular old world, so we're going to put the house here with the door, okay? If this home was foreclosed on, okay, what happens is the order in which the liens would be paid off would be first real estate property taxes. I know. Don't hold me to this, okay? Because I want to make sure that you know this. So, yes, I do know that property taxes are going to be first, smarty pants. So that would be first. Then this one. Then this would be second after the property taxes. Now, what happens is this. Let's say there was a subordination clause in this loan, okay, in that lien, okay? Then what happens is this. When this one was created or originated in January 2022, what happens is this loan would be willing to take a back seat to the second loan. So what it does is it allows the second loan or any loan thereafter to take a higher priority, okay? To take a higher priority, okay? That is the situation there, okay? So I hope that cleared it up for you. And I know a couple people are asking me, why would that be? What would be certain circumstances? That's always a popular question too. And I know that you like that sometimes, okay? Sandra said she passed. Thank you for the tutoring session. Oh, congratulations. Go sell some real estate. That's awesome. I love hearing that. But let me tell you the real life scenario about this one first, okay? Because I always love this one. What happens is this. So Maddie asked, why would a loan ever allow that? Great question. So what happens is this. Typically, it's because it would prevent someone from actually utilizing the lands or improving it in a manner that might make sense. So if I had a lot, and let's say I paid $25,000 for the lot. So I'm going to write this out as I'm saying it so that you could follow along, because I know some of us are a little more visual than others. So I always like to try to make it as visual as I possibly can. You ready? So what happens is this. I have a vacant lot, okay? Okay, lot, and it was purchased for $25,000, and I took out a loan for that amount. And let's just say that that's the case. Okay, what happens is this, okay? If I wanted to now build on it, I would have to take out a much higher loan. So let's say I would have to take a $200,000 loan to put on a modular onto it. Now, here's the situation. That bank that's going to lend me this, if they're not able to take first priority, it's going to hinder my abilities to get that $200,000 loan. So basically what happens is this bank will have an asset in their portfolio that is unimproved, doesn't have a home on it, and basically they have now hindered or hampered the purchaser from actually being able to improve it. So basically they have just shot themselves in the foot. So what happens is that loan would probably have a subordination clause built into it so that the $200,000 loan that comes after to build the home, to improve on the vacant lot, could take first priority. Otherwise, they simply won't lend to them. In most circumstances, outlier situations, yes, but I'm creating a general situation as to when this would be the case. Now, this is not super common. This is not something that you're going to see every day. Subordination clauses are not in every single loan, okay? But that's the situation there. And I hope that cleared it up for you. So please give me a big thumbs up if that did help you understand, finally, what a subordination clause is. Please type in the chat. Give me that thumbs up. Let me know that that helped you. And also, what I want to do is this. I want to ask if you could please hit the like button. Okay, that helps us out, please. And if you're watching on recording, remember, hit that like button. But what I want to tell you is this. I want to tell you for the rest of the schedule for the rest of the week. Hey, tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, you got Vocab with Joe. Vocabulary with Joe, the man, the myth, the legend, all in one total combined package. And then, guess what? Wham, bam. Rest of the week, you're going to have math with me on Thursday. No Cali Math Thursday. Hey, now. Okay. And we're going to have some fun questions for you built up. Okay. So that's going to be a great one. Of course, Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard, we are going to be doing Facebook Friday. That's where we go over your questions, your concerns, your burning desires. Okay. And we're going to be answering the questions that you're putting on the Facebook group. So if you aren't a member of that, head on over to facebook.com. Type into the chat. Type into the chat. Listen to me. Type into the search bar, okay, in the upper left-hand corner, Prep Agent Real Estate Exam Study Group, and you will find us. We are 40,000 plus strong as of right now, okay? So that is the situation there. Again, what I want to say is this. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful, fantastic, amazing evening, and I'm going to see everyone real soon.